What's going on, you guys? I'm here at YCS Minneapolis 2022. My brother Asian Persuasion, you already know.
Yes, sir.
And we are here with our dear friend, Mr. Pete Navarro. Back at it with another top cut finish at YCS Minneapolis. How'd you do, my friend?
Great. I love coming to Minneapolis because every time I go, I get to top, so it's kind of awesome.
Yeah. So, what is it, 3 for 3? 3
yeah,
for 3 now?
3 for 3, so I'm kind of excited about
Insane.
that. So. And top 32 was amazingly stacked with a lot of good players. Like, it was pretty crazy. And overall, the event was fantastic, so I had a great time with it. So, yeah.
What do we play this weekend?
Well, do you want to do shout-outs first? Or do you want to
Whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, let me do shout-outs first. There's going to be quite a few, actually.
Let's hear it.
First, primary, I'd like to thank my mom and Alex. Love you guys. I wouldn't be playing if it wasn't for you guys, so much appreciated for that. And then, for one thing, I got to give a big shout-out to my team, 24K, because the irony was I came in 24th and with 24K, so that was pretty cool. I was the only one from the team that came out here, but I'm glad because we even topped a bunch of regionals, too, the same weekend, so congrats to my boys for doing that as well. I'd like to thank Ulysses and Mike. They actually helped me a lot with the deck list, kind of finalize some things. So that was a big push for me to play the deck in general. I also want to thank Collectible Exchange. They're one of the locals I attend in California, as well as TCG. They're both fantastic locals to play. Honestly, probably some of the best competition to have, and kind of get people involved in the game more. And then, of course, you guys as well.
Yeah.
Johnny, Mike, everybody, staying with you guys has been a fantastic experience.
That kid.
And, of course, James,
That
the
kid.
boy over here. So.
And Andrew.
Andy Lou.
Andrew, my favorite person, Andrew.
Andrew.
So, but yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic event. Great. Judge staff was fantastic. Appreciate Konami for having us out there. It feels good to play in person. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
So what I played for this week, I played Spright. I felt like I wanted to play Tier, but I didn't like the mirror match a lot. That's kind of like normally how I feel about most of the decks I pick, is I don't like what I'm going to play against most of the time. If mirror match is fun, cool, then I don't mind playing it. But I decided overall that it was best to just play something that I could play 9+ rounds of Swiss and not worried about like if something bad happens initially. Like I could just play the game if I need to. So I decided to play Spright for the event. So first up, we played pretty much the standard Spright stuff: 3 blue. 3 jet, carrot, and red. This is all pretty much the standard stuff for it. I noticed that a lot of people were pretty much jumping on whether or not they wanted to add another red or anything else like that, but I put the Pixies in, and actually the Pixies was probably the MVP of the entire event because a lot of players didn't expect it, and then there are some players that are using Cyberstein, and I OTK'd several players after they revolved Cyberstein. I just made Pixies and he just OTK'd them from that because all of the damage and then just a Spright, gigantic Spright, and just go off from there. And some players, if they knew I didn't have it, it just made me guarantee a guaranteed win because of the amount of pressure they couldn't get back to me because of the card. So this card is fantastic. I think it's perfectly fine the way this ratio is for Sprites. I don't think anything else needs to be really explained from them.
Pixies.
But yeah, they're definitely key cards, honestly, with the whole engine. I wouldn't probably replace that and just leave it the way it is. Now, pretty much like additional extenders, Swap Frog. I didn't like this at all before, but the way this deck runs, it's actually perfect, and I'm glad I didn't take it out. That's probably like the best thing. Ipira, just in a generic draw card. It's actually important to play just because there are certain plays that you make that you just need the additional draw to have more fodder for later. That's perfectly fine. It's a level 2 good normal summon. But your primary normal summon those is when you do have it is Nimble Beaver. Beaver is so awesome with Angler because this is part of the initial combo now with the deck. And again, this you can go into like resolve this. All these cards here, if you do the combo correctly, you can pretty much resolve it, all of this in a single turn, which is really cool. If you always don't need to go for the Ipira. Sometimes you go for the Swap Frog, but this guy enables everything else in this deck to happen instantaneously. So it's pretty insane now, obviously. And those are for those guys. And then I liked hand traps. A lot of people don't like them, but I feel like they're valuable, and especially for 2 Ash and 3 Veiler. And then I also play triple Imperm. So far, I could say that the highest impact and most performing was Imperm and actually Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is super valuable. A lot of people think, oh, it's the least impactful, but this card is crucial on certain choke points. It won me a game in time against a tier player that was trying to mill for game, and then this won me the game to prevent him from milling. It also stops the Brandon High Spirits, which a lot of people are trying to do if you want to go off on that. It's also good against Spright Mirror, and this is why, for me, it held the most value. Veiler, I played Veiler mainly because, again, just want to negate stuff, but it was okay. I probably should have played something else other than that. Was it Mourner? Probably would have been better. Overall, I didn't mind it though because I wanted to use it as a bysteel target, so I could banish it if I ever needed to. But it was okay. But I did like all the hand traps overall, though. I think they were all very important in the long run. Okay. And then these are like pseudo extenders that play with the deck. So triple copies of Fenrir. This card's insane. I still can't believe they have a card like this. Unfortunately, I didn't see it as much as I would wanted to see it throughout the tournament, but every time we resolved it, for the most part, it was really hard for players to deal with. The biggest thing is like you could just summon it, add a copy of himself, and then just do a Spright or a level 2 or anything, and just use it as an extender piece, so that way you have another link material. So that's usually what he's meant for, but other than that, he puts a lot of other cards that are threats to you in the way, and I think this card was fantastic. I wouldn't replace this at all with anything. It was just a free body. And then for the bysteals, I played 2 Magnamute and 1 Druisworm. I do want to play more. I think that's something that you could experiment doing, like a 2-2 ratio. I think is fine. These cards are insane and they're fantastic. They're more annoying when you have to deal with them, just because they're such big bodies. Especially because they're ERAD targets, which is even more important. But these cards are like ridiculous. The deck with them is ridiculous, and it's just again, these were like very, very key cards, even for like mirror matches and stuff. So very good copies of stuff. The spells, pretty generic for these guys. Triple starter, smasher. Nothing else you can really say about the Spright stuff. It's all pretty much the same. What I liked in the main was double talents and double prosperities. A lot of players weren't using this one. I actually liked prosperities. Some people were running desires, but I didn't like banishing any engine pieces. I wanted to keep as much as I could and played out what I needed to do. And this you only resolve if you ever need to look for 3. You're never really going to banish 6. So it's just to kind of give you a deeper insight into what you're playing against. And I don't actually side it out games 2 and 3 mostly, unless I'm going first. And that's the only time it ever was in, is if I was going first. Any other time, I just kind of side rid of it. And talents was insane, honestly. This is probably like so many Magnamutes, so many special summons. Like you'd be surprised like how many things both players do on interactions during both players' turns in the tournament. It's just insane. And then lastly, this Call by the Grave. It was okay. I don't think it was as insane as I wanted it to be. But this card was actually very insane. It was the last Spright card I played. It was Spright Double Cross. A lot of my end-board combos, because I played 8 tier elements in Swiss, and this card, I only lost to 2 of them due to the fact that they were like insane specific top decks they needed. But this card allowed me to beat every single version of them. Like I played against an adventure package one, I played against another, like just the generic Brandon High Spirits. But this card's powerful in the fact that it actually like has 3 options that your opponent can be threatened by. And I think that's like, especially searching this turn 1, most players did not like seeing this card. Nor did I already had like half the people I played with the card didn't know what it did, and that was even like more of a surprise. But this card is insane though, and it's probably like one of the best cards that like my standard openings were using with that. I'll go over. Yeah, I'll go over the extra deck. That's easy.
You pay 40, Pete?
Yeah, it's even 40 altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Double Elf is pretty standard. Spright Sprin. This card is insane. I am very impressed with this card a lot, honestly. This was my go-to starter card for everything, because you just use Sprin with Angler, and then Angler will then send and get 2 more beavers, and then it just keeps going into like so much like of a waterfall effect. But I normally do something special with this, and I can show the combo after about it, why I usually like it. Dark Charmer, IP. I made it like once, used it to make an Avermax, which I never made the Unicorn, sad about that. Avermax, the irony in this was that I made it against my opponent, playing tier. He made his own. We crashed, he killed mine. I summoned a bunch of Sprites, and I pixie over to kill his. So that's all that was ever for, honestly. It wasn't a bad card. I don't think it's necessary, but it is very strong against tier, and they have like no real inherent out, so they have to commit more, which I kind of liked about that too. So that's just pretty much all for the Link monsters. And then for Exceeds, double Spright, gigantic Spright. Totally awesome. Main reason why I play the Swat Frogs. Kind of happens a lot, which I'm pretty cool with. Gin Buster. I only made this once. It was good. I played against tier elements, and that's when I used it. Soul Sweeper was really good, actually. I didn't expect it to be as useful. It was mostly good for a lot of the weird rogue decks. I played against Exorcister, so as long as you remove the girls from play, they don't have any girls, they can't use their effects. So this was really helpful because it just helps bait out a bunch of stuff. And then I played, lastly, was Mannequin Cat. I don't use Mannequin Cat the way like Joshua used it. I use it in more or less like if they use specific hand traps against me, I can just take their hand trap, put it in attack mode, and then like call out whatever sprite I need, or call out any like specific engine of stuff. So I really liked her for that reason. Most of the time she'd just become like a Zeus target, so like that's also another thing I would do with her too. She's big body, that's another reason why. But I mean, for the most part, it was pretty straightforward with that. So okay, and then lastly would be the side deck. I can say a lot of the wins that I got against like the tier matchups were because of my side, and that's mainly because of the triple dimension shifter. And I do want this card to get banned at some point, but I feel as long as decks like tier exist, I feel like it has to be in the game, and I don't see anybody who's not playing tiers should be playing the card. I know it sounds weird and unconventional, but the card is so powerful that no one wants to like deal with it. But every time I had this opening hand, it was pretty much insane. A lot of players do not like it, so like they do not see it at all. I mean, you're not going to use it against Flow, obviously, but the fact that it's just like it puts a pause on them, it's important.
Yeah.
So you know that's kind of like the biggest thing about that. And then to combo with that, I usually play like the Gamma Smashers. That just helps a lot. Or yeah, Gamma Burst. And those are again always were like sided against tiers, along with triple evenly match. This was a pretty good card too all weekend. Against Exosister, any of the rogue decks I played, it just wipes them off. All the tier players, they do a full combo. You play this, wipes all their stuff out, so it's pretty good. 3 Cosmic Cyclones. I actually never sided them in the entirety of the day because I didn't play any Runic Spright. Most people say use them, but I didn't care enough for them. It just kind of was whatever to me. I usually went into those Eradicators. I did resolve it against a adventure tier, and it had his Super Poly, part of his adventure engine, and then a Brandon and High Spirits, and then he just like couldn't play. And then after that, I just I pretty much took his whole hand apart. Then I used a Pointer, and then I used like Red Resonator. Pointer was pretty bad. I don't care so much for that card. It was a win more when I did activate it, and then Red Resonator I never went into time because this deck was really good at taking apart boards, and so like that way when they had no board, you just OTK them on your turn. So the side deck was fantastic with it overall. But the biggest thing is like people always were doing with end boards, because I guess a lot of Spright players weren't doing it. I was kind of confused about how they like play it with it. So for like a generic interaction, I can do like this. Let's get the guys out. Yeah, so normally you do blue and you get Jet. You know, Jet searches out a card, so I usually search out this. And then depending on how your field is and what you're trying to commit to, if you're going first, and nobody nibbed me the entire tournament. I got like nibbed once, but it didn't matter because the token was like 4,800, defense 32, and all he had was Fenrir, and I can't banish it face down, so I just won from just pure beatdown. But usually what you do is you go link these guys off, you go into the standard opening would be Sprint, and the good thing about this card is that you're sending something right away, so already you've searched out your trap card. You're going to use his effect to send, and then normally you just go and send pretty much 100% of the time. You're going to go and send your Angler. Your Angler is going to trigger, so you get to send special summon 2. So you bring out both the beavers, they come into play.
Them beavers.
Right? It's a big beaver, eh?
The big beavers.
You know, you have the beavers out, and then what I would do is that you want to facilitate them as much as possible, use all the resources. So what I would do is leave the zone open that's pointed here, and then after it's done, I would exceed into Gigantic. And then once you Gigantic, you're going to detach the beaver, and then you allow that to search. So by this time, they shuts off like Magnum Boots, everything like that, so you don't care whatever they do summon from that. And you bring out Swap Frog, and then you use Swap Frog's effect to send another Swap Frog, which is like if you need more pieces, that's fine. And if you have like another level 2, that's fine as well. It usually just depends on your extenders with it. Most of the time when I did play with it, I had like another level 2, like a Pixies or something, and it's very often it happens. So it just to say, for example, you do Pixie, and then you want to keep bodies, or you need like additional things in play. It just helps you extend more. So sometimes, if you want to get rid of these, you can. If you don't want to get rid of them, that's okay too. But usually the whole combo will always end up with 2 or more pieces. Like you're going to end up with a red, you're going to end up with this and that. And then these guys would always get linked off, and when those guys would get linked off, you go into like another Spright, you go into Spright Elf. And then normally you would go Elf, and then you revive the Frog, and then Yugioh the Frog into the Totally Awesome, which at first doesn't seem kind of threatening because we're like, oh, you have like a super polyo board, which is okay. But the goal with it is that on your opponent's turn when you play against tier, if they special summon anything, you're going to use Sprint on their turn, and a lot of players would forget about that. So that you just go ahead and detach, bounce their card back, and do whatever you want. You also would have Elf, so Elf could revive something back, so then you wouldn't be afraid of losing materials or doing anything with it. So there's a lot of like cool applications with that, and then again, you can just reuse the Toad. Toad grabs back Beaver, so you can use Beaver again on your turn. So it had a lot of follow-up with it, and especially with the trap card backed with it, you just attach their material to this. If you had times where they would ever get rid of this guy, then you go and use this effect, and then you just special summon the card back to the zone that you take. So it was a fantastic like opening a lot, and a lot of players weren't really expecting it, which is pretty surprising. But like I said, the deck was fantastic. I had a great time with it. It was definitely a correct choice, which I was happy with. I thought at first it wasn't going to do well, honestly. I lost like round 3, went X1, and then lost the first round going into day 2, and then I clinched against a mirror match, which I was really happy about. But I mean, overall, it was fantastic. I had a great time out here, you know. So it feels good to be get another top finally, top 16. So yeah, you know, it was a great event, and I appreciate, like I said, everybody coming out, and it was good to see people that I hadn't seen in years. And it looks like, you know, it wasn't easy, like I said, playing, but yeah, I had a good time with it.
You did your thing.
All right.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on getting top 16, Pete. Yep. And we love you, buddy, because you're the best. Yeah. You're the best roomie, the best foodie to hang out with, best friends. You already know.
Of course, that's what we got a token of.
Yeah, that's what y'all see the sexy people. Yeah, you already know. And then Andrew's right here too. He's included. Yeah, he's included. But congrats again, and thanks for the deck profile.
Thanks again, guys.